They told you the world is hard, that success is about luck, that some people are just born to struggle. But what if that's not the truth? What if the real difference between those who rise and those who fall is mindset? In Rastafari, we don't just talk about Jah and spirit. We live it. And that life begins not with riches, not with fame, not even with health, but with the mind. Because the mind is where the spirit speaks. It's the garden where your faith is planted or destroyed. And in this Babylon system, the greatest war is not physical, it's mental. You see, every man and woman lives in two worlds, the one outside and the one inside. And whichever world is stronger, that's the one that wins. Today, we're going deep into the truth behind the phrase, mindset is everything. Through the eyes of the Rasta man, the wisdom of the ancients, and the reality of our daily lives, we'll explore how thought creates destiny, how spiritual perception changes the world you walk in, and why your mind is the real battlefield between Babylon and Zion. So if you've ever felt stuck, lost, angry, or hopeless, this video is your call to rise. Because once you shift your mind, your whole life follows. Let's begin. As a man thinketh, how belief becomes destiny. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23 verse 7. This ancient scripture is not just poetic, it's a spiritual law. Your thoughts are not just fleeting clouds in your head. They are seeds of creation, blueprints of your future. What you believe about yourself, about Jah, about your place in the world. These thoughts silently carve the path you walk. Many people wait for their situation to change before they believe. They want to see success before they believe they are capable. They want to feel peace before they choose to think peaceful thoughts. But the Rasta knows, it works the other way around. First you believe, then you see. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Jah did not give you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Yet Babylon constantly tries to break that mind, confuse that power, distort that love. So how do you reclaim your destiny? You go back to the root, belief. Think about this. Why did so many enslaved people accept chains? Because their belief in themselves was stolen. Why do modern youth chase Babylon vanity and kill their own? Because they believe they are less, that they must prove something through destruction. Belief is not small, it is everything. Rastafari reverses that lie. Rasta says, I am divine. I am created in the image of the Most High. My thoughts are sacred. My life has meaning. Not because Babylon said so, but because Jah said so. This mindset builds a destiny of purpose. If you believe you were born to serve, you will find opportunities to uplift others. If you believe you are a warrior of light, you will rise in courage even when life gets heavy. If you believe Jah is with you, you will walk through the valley of shadow with no fear. But if you believe you are cursed, stuck, unworthy, or doomed, those beliefs become chains heavier than iron. Not because they're true, but because you gave them power. So I ask you, what do you believe about yourself? Do you believe that you're here to suffer or to rise? Do you believe that you are a victim or a vessel of divine purpose? Your mindset builds your story. Your beliefs frame your future. And the beautiful thing is this, beliefs can be changed. Mindsets can be renewed. That's why the scripture says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's the true rebirth, not just changing your clothes, not just chanting words, but renewing the mind from the inside out. It is not easy. Babylon whispers constantly. The past screams. Trauma repeats. But the Rasta walks with intention. He reasons with himself. He fasts. He meditates. He listens to roots reggae, not for entertainment, but for alignment. Every day is a spiritual reset. Every moment is a chance to reframe the mind and reclaim the future. So if your life is not where you want it to be, don't first change the world. Change your thoughts. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. Babylon lives in the mind. Mental emancipation is the real revolution. People think of Babylon as just a place, a government, a corrupt city somewhere far away. But Babylon is deeper than that. It's not just the rulers, it's the rule. Not just the system, it's the mindset behind the system. Babylon is the spiritual condition of confusion, control, and illusion. And its strongest stronghold is the mind. You can live in the hills, wear dreadlocks, eat ital food, and still be a prisoner. If your thoughts are trapped in fear, ego, and self-doubt. That's why the greatest rebellion isn't physical. it's mental emancipation. Marcus Garvey said it clearly. We must emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, for while others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. And Bob Marley echoed that truth. Rasta heard it, lived it, spread it. See, Babylon trains your mind to stay small. From youth, you are taught what to fear, what to chase, what to believe. You are programmed to follow, to obey without question, to never ask why. You are given heroes to worship and enemies to hate. Your own self-image is shaped by outside opinions. You are told your worth is in your job, your looks, your achievements, never in your soul. This is Babylon's greatest deception. Not guns, not bombs, but thoughts. But Rasta say no. Rasta breaks the mental chain first. That's why reasoning is sacred. That's why chanting and drumming are powerful, not just for sound, but for awakening. That's why the lion is the symbol, not because it fights, but because it knows its identity. A lion does not need to roar to prove itself. It knows who it is. The revolution begins when you stop thinking like Babylon. When you stop measuring success by money and start measuring it by purpose. When you stop needing external validation and start walking with Jah confidence. When you stop fearing what the world thinks and start aligning with what the spirit knows. Mental emancipation means you no longer accept everything handed to you. You question. You seek truth. You separate from confusion. You no longer consume what poisons your thoughts, be it media, music, false teachings, or toxic people. You become selective, sacred, deliberate. This is why many can't understand the Rasta. He lives by a higher law. He reasons with trees, with scripture, with silence. He doesn't rush, because he walks by divine timing. He doesn't fear Babylon, because he has already left it in his mind. You see, physical freedom can be taken, but mental freedom is a choice. It's a decision you make every day, to think with clarity, to resist manipulation, to remember who you are. Babylon wants you to forget. Rasta reminds you to remember. So I say this to you. If you want to be free, don't just escape the system. Remove the system from your mind. Because once the mind is liberated, nothing can enslave you. Shift the mind, shift the life, from struggle to purpose. There comes a moment in every man or woman's life when they ask, why me? Why the pain? Why the delay? Why the constant battle? And often, Babylon teaches you to accept struggle as your fate. But Rasta understands this differently. Struggle is not the enemy, it's the messenger. And purpose is not found by avoiding it, but by transforming it. And that transformation begins in the mind. The Rasta doesn't just see with eyes, he sees with vision. Vision is different from sight. Sight is what's in front of you. Vision is what's within you. And when your mindset shifts, your vision shifts. What used to look like a curse now looks like a calling. What once seemed like rejection now reveals redirection. You lose a job, and Babylon says, you're a failure. But the Rasta mind says, this is Jah's way of setting me on a new path. You get betrayed, and Babylon says, you're alone. But the awakened mind says, now I walk with truth, not illusion. You struggle for years, and Babylon whispers, you're cursed. But the spiritual mind replies, even gold must pass through fire before it shines. That's the power of mindset. Every great awakening begins with a shift in thought. You don't need a new city, new clothes, or new friends first. You need new thinking. As the scripture says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The word renewing suggests it's ongoing. It doesn't happen once. It's a daily choice. The Rasta wakes up and chooses liberty, chooses to see life through the lens of divine purpose, not worldly pressure. Many of the elders who walk with wisdom today once walked through fire. They had nothing. They were mocked. They were misunderstood. But they never gave Babylon their mind. They sat in silence. They meditated. They let the Most High whisper into their being until strength returned. That is how the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, not by fighting the cocoon, but by surrendering to the inner change. So if your outer world feels chaotic, don't first try to fix everything outside. Go within. Ask yourself, what am I believing about this struggle? Am I seeing with Jah's vision or with Babylon's fear? What lesson is hidden in this pain? When you start to think like this, your life begins to rise. Slowly, yes, but steadily. You start making different choices. You speak more life. You surround yourself with better energy. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop surviving and start living. And others will see it. They won't always understand it, but they will feel it. Because when your mindset is right, your presence changes a room. Your energy uplifts. Your silence speaks. You become light in a dark place. Not because you escaped the struggle, but because you turned it into your teacher. This is the way of the Rasta. Not escape, but elevation. Not resistance to the storm, but dance within it. So if you want to change your life, don't wait. Shift your thoughts. Shift your vibration. Shift your story. There comes a moment in every man and woman's journey when you realize you are not your past, your wounds, your fears, or even your thoughts. You are the observer, the watcher behind the thoughts, the soul behind the eyes. And when you finally see this, something powerful happens. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. That's when you know for sure, mindset is everything. But here's the truth most won't tell you. The old mindset doesn't die quietly. It fights to survive. It clings to old habits, old pain, old identities. It tells you, this is just who you are. But no, that's just who you've been. You can change the story. You can write a new chapter. Jah gave you free will, not to wander aimlessly, but to choose your vibration each day. And every day, you either choose Babylon or you choose Jah. Rewiring your mindset isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about seeing the storm and still choosing peace. It's about facing the fear and walking forward anyway. It's about realizing that every test is a portal, every delay is preparation, and every hardship is either your breakdown or your breakthrough, depending on how you think. This is the way of the awakened. The Rasta way. Not just dreadlocks or ital food, but mental discipline, spiritual clarity, emotional courage. You keep your head up even when the world crumbles, because you know Jah is your foundation. And that foundation is built in the mind long before it's seen in the world. Look around you. Babylon wants your mind more than your money. Because once it has your thoughts, it owns your decisions. But when you take your mind back, you take your power back. You begin to live with intention. You start waking up with purpose. You speak with weight. You walk with fire in your chest and stillness in your soul. And don't expect everyone to understand. Most people are sleepwalking, living recycled thoughts on repeat. But you are waking up. Every moment you choose gratitude over complaint, love over fear, purpose over pressure. You are rising. You are remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. So let this be your reminder. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are becoming. And that becoming starts with how you think, how you speak, and how you see yourself. Not through Babylon's eyes, but through Jah's vision. Rewire your mind. Reclaim your spirit. Realign your path. Walk in the fullness of who Jah created you to be. Not next week. Not someday. Now. If this message spoke to you, if something inside you is shifting, don't let it fade. Nurture that flame. Let it grow into fire. And if you're ready to walk this journey of mindset, freedom, and truth, then subscribe to the Zion Way. This is more than a channel. It's a movement for awakened souls. Give thanks. Stay conscious. And never forget, mindset is everything. The mind is the root. Everything else is a branch. In the beginning, before action, before words, before even desire, there is thought. The mind is the seedbed, the origin of every movement, every fall, every rise. Just like the roots of a tree hidden beneath the soil, your mindset is unseen, but it determines the fruit your life will bear. A tree cannot produce sweet fruit if its roots are sick. In the same way, a man cannot produce joy, peace, or success if his mind is full of fear, bitterness, and confusion. Rastas understand this. That is why we chant mental emancipation. Because it is not the chain on the wrist, but the one on the mind, that keeps you in bondage. Babylon knows this. That's why it spends more time programming your thoughts than chaining your body. Through television, social media, the school system, religion twisted from truth, they plant ideas in you. Ideas of powerlessness, shame, lack, division. They want you to think small. Because once your mind is colonized, they don't need to do much else. You'll sabotage yourself. But Jah say otherwise. The teachings of His Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie guide I to cultivate our minds like sacred gardens. We must uproot the weeds, negative self-talk, doubt, envy, Babylon lies. And we must water the mind with light, scripture, reasoning, music with message, silence, and prayer. What does that look like? It means when trouble comes, the Rasta doesn't say, "Why me?" He says, "What is Jah showing me?" It means when people mock you, you don't absorb their words, you reflect them with strength. It means you don't just eat ital food for the body, you feed ital thoughts to the soul. Mindset is the inner covenant. Before you dread your locks, you must first dread your thoughts, meaning you must consecrate them, separate them from Babylon thinking. A real Rasta doesn't only dress different. He thinks different. He sees opportunity where others see failure. He sees divine purpose where others see suffering. That's why the root is where we must start. Because once the mind is right, your vision becomes clear. You don't just look, you see. You don't just react, you respond. You don't just exist, you live consciously. So guard your mind. It is not a garbage bin for Babylon confusion. It is a temple where the Most High dwells. Grow your roots deep in faith, and your branches will stretch wide into purpose.